Hey, and just like that, it's Wednesday night. Tech Talk Live, brought to you by WAF Racing.
Yeah, it's another Wednesday night, man. These days are going by fast. Have you noticed
I
that?
know.
Just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, it's like it feels like once you get done with it, the following, like you have like one day off, and all of a sudden, bang, there it is again.
Right. And it's crazy too. Is I go back to work on Monday, and all of a sudden I'm like, man, I got to start making a post for the next video. And it's like, man, I just went back to work, and all of a sudden, then after this, it's Thursday, and you're like, man, what happened to the week?
Yeah, it just blows right through.
So
Well,
before you greet these people, I want to say something. Just a minute ago, before I came on here, the engine is in the car. I mentioned that to you? But I'm going to tell everyone the engine is in the car. It's not coming back out. And I did a full mock-up of the transmission, and everything fits. Hallelujah.
well, and it's been a long time coming. So here pretty soon you're going to have T5 shifted slant six dart. That's a hot rod.
Yeah, and I'm going to blow up the rear end.
Rod. I don't know what you would call it. Hot street rod? I don't have no.
It's just a hot rod. I would say it's just a hot rod slant six. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess from the top, we got Bruce Coltgen in here. He was 22 hours ahead of schedule, so that was 8:30 p.m. last night. Colleen Tebow, check out the sponsor, the channel sponsor. KS Skyhawk was here at 6:56, so right before the wire. Matthew Ward was here. Lumpy Wi-Fi B, Mohawk 62, Clayton's Toolbox, Val 360, Jimmy. Michael Schmidt, Kerosene Cucumbers, the greatest name on all of YouTube. Buick Smith is here. Mopar Michael 1972, which I don't think I've ever seen that name before. The Tasman 1968. Michael Schmitz has our first Tech Talk question of the night at 7:01. SSR Performance is here, probably going to ask us about some E85 and Triple Crown.
Negative. Still no.
Still no. All right. Vintage Adventure Drives is here. Howdy, folks. I'm coming to you from my job. I'll be making tunnel ram noises soon. Sweet. And Levi's Backyard Performance is here, ringing the bell for the folks in Indiana. And Clint Street Machine says, "Sup, y'all." So
we got to do something real quick right here. What's that?
Yeah, that man, you know what? Those commercials, whoever was in charge of Budweiser during that period, dude, that person has got to be like one of the best advertisement guys around.
Ever, because that was for that dominated for 10 years, and to this day it still dominates. People who are my age still know that and still make that joke.
Well,
and you'll hear us.
What was before that? Okay. You had the Budweiser Frogs.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Right. Which was like, that was probably, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years long.
Yeah.
And then you had the Was Up, which was like, there was movies that made fun of that commercial.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Like Scary Movie. Remember Scary Movie?
Oh, yeah. Because it was so prolific. It was everywhere.
Oh, yeah. And it was so game changer and different. Right. But then all of a sudden they went to this wokeism stuff, and then nobody even remembers them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right. So, Michael Schmidt says, tech question, sprung versus unsprung weight. What's the goal, or how are these used to manage weight transfer? You brought this up last week. Okay. So in drag racing, unsprung weight on the front end, bad. Unsprung weight over the wheels, depending on what kind of drag racing you're doing, not as bad. But the whole idea is that if you're unsprung weight and the car comes up, basically that's dead weight. And as soon as your wheels transfer.
I think where you should start at is explain to them what is sprung weight and what is unsprung weight.
Oh, I'm sorry. I figured that someone knew that. I'm sorry. Unsprung weight is something that does not, the suspension doesn't affect it. So like your axle is unsprung weight. So that is your suspension's attached to it, but nothing, there's nothing holding that up. It's basically dead weight. Your spindles and wheels are unsprung weight, but then everything that's attached to that, like your springs and your shocks and all that, that is sprung weight. So anything that's going to move in the suspension process, where wheels, when they hit the ground, they don't move, everything else moves around. That's unsprung weight.
Right. It's anything above the spring.
Yeah, anything above the spring
is sprung weight.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so
Anything
mostly,
below the spring is unsprung weight.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, if you got an A arm, then it's basically the spindles are part of that unsprung weight then, and the wheels and the brakes and all that stuff. So the thing about unsprung weight though is that in the front end, the reason why you want it as light as possible, so that way when you do a weight transfer and your your car's transferring well, and as soon as your tires want to come off the ground, then you have all this extra weight. And what that will do is it will unload the rear end, and sometimes you have to account for that. Also, too, a lot of people nowadays in this radial racing, they'll put a lot of weight on the axle itself for unsprung weight, because then you don't have to change the spring weight by adding weight. So like if like on the Cookie Monster, when I put weight out back, it actually upsets the launch angle. So I'll go from like say 100 and I'll go from like 103 anti-squat, and I'll put weight in it. It goes all the way down to 99. So instead of it being extension, now it's going to be a squat, because the pickup points are lower to the ground. So instead of them being up here, they're now lower. So a lot of people are now putting them onto the axle, so that way you don't change your sprung, your anti-squat. But yeah, that's really it. And it also does. It really helps like in road racing with braking, turning into corners. I mean, there's a lot of, the list is long. I could go on for this one all night. What do you, now on Dallas's car, you'll never have unsprung weight on the front end because that front suspension is like 18 inches long.
Oh, you're talking about my T-Bird?
Yeah.
That was the whole idea.
Yeah.
But I mean, I kind of just lucked into that, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I had they don't make suspension specifically for a T-Bird. So I got to mix and match components to make something work. And I ended up with SN95 Mustang parts and Fox Mustang parts kind of put together with a few smattering of T-Bird parts here and there. And next thing you know, I got a long travel suspension, which I think I was the first person to have that, because I don't remember seeing anybody else before 2014 with it.
Yeah.
So,
but that's really it. Unsprung weight is usually bad on the front end for drag racing.
Oh yeah, that's because you'll get to the full extension of the suspension, and all of a sudden it dead hangs,
and then unloads the rear end.
Huh?
And then it unloads the rear end.
Right. Yeah. It takes all of the weight transfer. It takes actually all of the inertia that's going toward the rear end. It drags it forward.
That's
and
right.
then when it shifts the weight like that, okay, that's what's the problem is this. All right. That's why a dragster doesn't have any of this. It uses its own chassis as flex so it can absorb rotational twist. The suspension absolutely sucks on a drag car. It's what causes 99% of the traction and ill handling issues at the drag strip is generally suspension. If you go back and look at the 60s cars, you can see this well because they're 4-speed, and it was like having a trans brake way before the trans brake was invented. And when they'd shift, you'd see just the driver moved himself forward to pull on the shift, the handle, and it'll move the weight inside the car, and you'll see the car dip and dodge and dive and do weird stuff. And that's just because you are shifting weight inside the car while it's already thrown back in an inertial state, right?
Yeah.
So you're looking at Newton's law happening in real time.
In real time, yes. Yeah. Object of motion wants to stay in motion until there's an opposite and equal reaction, and that is coming off the ground, and now it goes, takes it all off.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay.
There was a few other ones before we get to this one. Is there was Spuds McKinsey? Remember that one too? Before that?
Oh, that was way back in like the 80s.
Yes.
Yeah, but they did a really good job with that. I imagine that their advertisement management crew probably was the same one that did all of those videos, and then they fired them or got cocky or whatever, and now they're back to the 80s style of commercials, which was like before Spuds McKinsey. You had the Clydesdales and the American flag, right? Yep. And they were not very good commercials in relation to all the other beers out there were doing a really good job of out promoting their stuff over Budweiser.
Yeah.
Because and you gotta face it, Budweiser, Bud Light, all those beers taste like shit.
They do.
Like they're terrible. I mean,
For
Bud
me, it
Light
was
is
always
probably better than Budweiser because there's less flavor because it's a light beer. So
we used to call Coors Light East County water, like East County, San Diego, because that's basically, you would drink 30 beers a day, in the desert. Basically, it's so full of water, it was like hydration almost at that point.
Yeah.
So
Skyhawk saying, how common is it for a Buick 350 to have a leaky head gasket? It's not a very common thing. It's much more common when you start talking about 60 to 70 because they used a 20,000 steel shim head gasket. And what would happen over time is that water would rust out through those water jackets on the edge and then reach like cylinder number like 1 or 7 or 2 or 8. And that's when you start having head gasket issues, is when those things will rust out. The steel shim intake manifold gasket is usually a good indicator that if it starts to weep, then generally the head gasket's leaking as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so that's the rule of thumb. But if it's got like any kind of late model gaskets in it that are like the impregnated gaskets, probably not leaking.
Yeah. Ice Spider saying, hi guys, how's it going? Hey, nice to see you. Thanks for coming back. Clint is saying, he even says right here, if you even older, remember Spuds McKenzie. So there you go. See here. Okay. Vintage Adventure drives on a Leaf Spring car. What's the pros and cons of the front hanger being higher or lower? And that is going to be your angle. So that's going to be your squat or anti-squat. It basically depends on what axle it is, where the axle is in relationship to the leaf spring. So is it a Mopar where it's, like say the first quarter is the leaf spring, where on Chevrolet where it's, halfway down. But that's really, that's going to be the pros and cons. And on a Mopar, I can talk a lot about this on the Mopar because they're designed so that way they don't wrap because of that. And they're usually going to be slightly in line with the subframe. And then when you go to like say a Caltrax, the bar hangs down underneath, and depending on that angle of the bar, that gives you your center of gravity on where your CG is, where that thing's going to where it's going to what's the word I'm looking for? The center line, basically where that's going to hit. And you can follow that all the way up if it's going to be I'm gonna say a squat or anti-squat number. But I had mine. I tried it on the Cookie Monster. I had 3 different settings on it, and mine worked. Literally, the middle one was factory, and that worked the best for my car. It was right in the factory spot.
Right, and that's because it's allowing you to attain instant center.
That's right.
Right,
instant center. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, I was figuring that's what you're trying to search for, but you're okay. So that if you follow the arc and draw a straight line from the axle to the bottom of the axle tube to that hole in the front part of the leaf spring, and you continued that line all the way through the car, where that meets essentially on a leaf spring car. Okay. So on a leaf spring car is different because it doesn't have a top bar. The top bar actually allows, if you had a triangulated 4-link, it would show you exactly where instant center is at. But you're going to have to do the inverse of the axle tube at the top to determine where your instant center is going to be. If you draw like a line from that bottom of the axle tube through that front hole, and then you would have to do the inverse of it. Is that right? I think so. And then where those two cross, that's the instant center of the car. When you change that lower one, like the front, you're talking about the front mounting hole, right?
Yeah.
Front hanger being higher or lower. When you change that, what you're doing is changing the location of the instant center. And the ideal situation is you want to move it as far back as possible, right? You want it to be just about where the driver's seat is attached or a little bit after that.
And Basically, the instant center goes from from the bottom of the rear wheel, and then typically it's you take wherever the crankshaft is and the cam, and it's right in that line on the engine, wherever the engine height is, and you draw a line there from that back wheel to there, and that's basically your that's your 100% line. So if you're above and below that, that's how you gain the anti-squat or the squat type line, and that basically instant center, how far out it is or how close it is above or below that line, is how the car is going to react.
Well, the instant center is the most important thing when it comes to launching the car at the drag strip, because it's how it attacks the tire. Does it allow it to roll the tire under and it moves your instant center way out, or does it shock the tire and roll backwards and then screw up your instant center and move it forward, or like it moves it aft, but it moves it up and aft? It gets weird, right? And that's what sucks about it. A leaf spring car is that the axle wrap on it allows it to shift into center pretty quick, and the Caltrack bars were designed to eliminate that.
Yeah, it eliminates the shock. It slows down the shock on that. KS Skyhawks, any suggestions on where to buy exhaust header flange for a 350 Buick? I'd be happy with crappy junk used headers. I have a Sawzall and I know how to use it.
Well, I did this a couple of ways, because I bought some flanges from TA. I still have some. I just buy them specifically from TA. But if you just type in Buick 350 header flanges, there's a couple places that make them, because Sanderson makes Buick 350 headers. Cooks used to make Buick 350 headers.
Yeah,
I don't know if either one does anymore, but they used to be able to sell you a flange. But what I found was the TA ones were about the same price. So, I mean, I ended up just buying from TA.
Yeah, and this way too. I've actually got these before, not this style, but flange gaskets. I bought an old set of headers, and then by the time I cut them off and all the work and all that stuff doing to it, it was just cheaper just to buy ones that were already made. So you can look at Facebook Marketplace, but it might just be easier.
So that's what I did with my Superstock Buick. I bought a set of headers from Doug that were Doug's headers.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it in Cook's? No, it's Doug's headers that I had got, and they were for 70 to 72 Skylark or 68 to 72, and I cut them all up and made them fit on this 63 Buick. But you can score some off Marketplace. They're just not too easy to find, and the Buick headers were already expensive anyway, and now headers have gotten ridiculous, and I mean insane. When Shane and I were like young punks running around going to Western Auto used to have a set of headers from
Blackjack,
Low-Tech or something like that.
Those Blackjack headers were
$99.
$99 Blackjack headers.
Those headers today are probably $500.
Yeah, and they were crap. They didn't fit. You started to beat the crap out of them, and then literally you could, for $150, you can get headers, the gaskets, and then the purple hornies that were basically right there. They had the little the cherry bomb pot. Remember that little barrel, and it looked like a cherry bomb, and they had about 10 different ones in there, so you just pick up whatever you wanted. So you could buy 2 cherry bombs and headers for $150. Yeah. Andy's in here. It's good to see everyone tonight. Yeah, it's good. Thanks for stopping by, Andy. He's been tinkering with his 85 GT. So awesome.
So Levi's saying, weird AI tech question. How close do you think an AI system is getting estimated ET of a car or truck build? If it is close, we're definitely setting a record. It
doesn't take.
I think you don't have the right variables. Well, I'll answer the AI one. AI is shit. Okay, it really is garbage. You go look at AI porn. Nobody watches that crap. AI pictures, they're easy to spot because there's something stupid like the beloved car that you love that it's showing an AI picture of has Magnum 500 Ford fucking wheels on a Chevrolet, right? It's stupid stuff like that AI will never, ever be able to bridge the gap to understand, what is really what. And the good thing is that I think, everyone was saying a few years ago, AI is going to take everybody's job. No, AI is going to take everybody that calculates something or measures something's job, right? A lot of white-collar jobs are going to go away. because of AI. Anybody else that thinks with their mind and creates things, AI is never going to be able to touch you. Okay. But it's just okay. In the Navy, we used to have this really awesome range prediction equipment that could tell you how far your sonar ranges were for the day. Okay. And it was just like anything else, even AI. The information that it puts out is dependent upon how good of information you put in. All right. And I know since this thing has never even started and ran, you don't even have a valid horsepower number yet to put in there, let alone where it's peaking at and what kind of numbers it's making. So I'm assuming the number's probably going to be way off because you got too many estimated things in there. Like say, you probably got vehicle weight and you probably got, I don't know, wheelbase figured out, but you certainly don't have how much power is making at the wheel, where's peak torque, where's peak horsepower. It's all kind of a rough estimate stuff, right? And that's where, you're going to be in the ballpark, but when you're talking drag racing, the ballpark might be 3-second difference.
Yeah. There's a bunch of people saying hi and bye to everyone, but I'm going to skip ahead to this one here at 717. Tech, on a drop straight axle on a 23T bucket, what should the king angle camber angle be? We are looking at building one. Okay, on the street, this is a really simple answer. On the street, you're looking at about 7 to 10 on the street. Now, if this is a racing only type of deal, I've seen them as high as like 10 to 15 degrees. And that's like on a rail car, like a one that's like a complete dragster type deal. But I've actually done these. I've built a few straight axle cars, and I remember 7 to 10 degrees on that. Now that's laid back. That's caster.
And see, that was the ticket. Long time ago in the 60s, they used to swap straight axles into cars, and they would talk about how ill handling they were on the top end. And generally that was 100% due to the caster.
Yep, exactly. And then the faster they got, the farther they laid them back, because the car wants to go straight. So
it drives itself straight.
It drives itself. So the farther you lay it back, it wants to go straight. So it really comes down to how fast you're going. But if it's on a 23T bucket, that's a really short car to begin with. So I would also look at like Ackerman angle. It's a whole different thing too. But if you're just looking at the caster, I would be between 7 and 10. I would favor on the bigger number, closer to 10. I have 7 degrees in the Cookie Monster, and I wish I could get more out of it. I would be happy. I would be happier once I get over 150 with about 9 degrees, because that way the car wants to go straight at that point.
Okay, right below that, Michael Schmidt says, instant center, is this the point where you hang the car? From that point, it will sit perfectly level all around. No,
not center of gravity. That's the
perfect center of gravity, like he's saying from the
vehicle,
right? Instant center is like what I told you. If you had a triangulated 4-link, the triangulated 4-link is the easy one, right? The leaf spring car is the difficult one because it's only got literally one side. You have to use the inverse. Is that what it is? Or
I think it's the center line of the axle.
I think it's the inverse. I think you have to do.
I have it written down downstairs.
It's geometry on a leaf spring car that it requires you to have like, what's the inverse? Cosine?
Well, no, because
it's geometry stuff that I suck at.
Yeah.
Okay, but it starts where the leaf spring touches the rear end, and the hole that you have it in for the hanger, the front shackle or the front hanger. You draw a line straight from those two. And then the top one, I believe, is the inverse. So if you got it like, say, and you're looking at it being clocked, and your perch is here at the bottom and the axle sitting on the spring, which I believe is probably the case in a car. On a pickup truck, the springs up here. But on a car is down here. So you're going to have to do the inverse of it, which you look at that 360 degrees. If it touches down at 185, then you should be over here at like, say, 5 degrees. Is that right? Yeah, 5 degrees. And then you have to do an inverse line
Mm-hmm.
to draw those, and where those two lines meet. It's all a imaginary line.
Yeah,
Where those two lines meet
that's your
inside the car, it's generally down at the rocker panel, like normally almost right in front of the seat of the driver.
Yeah, and how far forward too it goes. That's how the car is going to react. Farther back, it's going to want to come up. The farther forward it is, actually, I'm sorry, the farther forward it's going to want to come up. The closer back, it puts so much leverage on it. It has a harder time lifting the car.
I found the lower you get the rear of the car, the more instant center that's applied, and the harder you can hit the tire.
Yep.
The problem with it is the suspension starts to get wonky because it can't control. It only has like so much movement left.
That's
when
right.
you lower it all the way down, right? So there's no control over it. So you run it on the edge, but you don't want to run into like bump stops and limit the travel. And then because once it does that, then it unloads everything. The geometry and suspension is completely screwed up because it essentially dead shorts the energy through the bump stop. And now the frame becomes a part of it, and it's a mess. You don't want them to touch.
So Vintage Adventure Drive says that is the most beautiful girl in the world has joined the chat. So it must be Shelby somewhere.
Let's see.
I'm going through. Yeah. Okay. So Mr. Wilburn was saying that blackjack headers for small block Mopar when he was a kid were 59 and 69. I know they were 99.99 when I was buying them. And that was in the 90s. I just know that. That was at the local California, actually no Riley's. It was Kragen at that point. Or Chief Auto Parts.
Clint Street Machine says the sparkly white coated blackjacks were $129, but still fit terrible. They always fit horrible. I remember those headers. I don't know if they were made in China or Taiwan or whatever, but man, it was like there was guys. Okay, if you don't know like the history of headers, because like Mopar guys got it pretty rough because you got to deal with those torsion bars, and that's what screws up a lot of headers. And then you also got mid sump pans and all kinds of rear steer, so that screwed everything up even more.
And the start, basically the whole driver's side is just fucked because you have the steering, the starter, and then the torsion bar, and it's just there's nowhere to go on that whole side.
So, but GM guys, the rule of thumb used to be if your headers didn't fit well, go buy a new set of motor mounts, and it'll lift the engine back where it's supposed to be instead of sagged, and then everything will fit perfectly. Blackjack headers, the best thing to do is take the engine out of the car and put the header on and just leave it out of the car because that's the only way it's going to fit, right? I mean, that's where if you watch Freiberger and Dulcich where they dent the headers, that video for Engine Masters, dude, guys used to have to flatten the headers to get them in.
Yeah.
Like there was no way that was going to fit. And then the engineer that you wish you would have found that engineer that put those together because there was no way that it fit in the car they were claiming it was the fit.
So I says, man, I was at a gas station today. You wouldn't believe how much cheaper E85 is than 93 octane. So there it is. There's the very first little E85. Not going to happen, buddy. Not going to happen. Buick Smith says that so camber angle should be 0 degrees. I would try to
put camber was like 3.
No,
isn't that laid back? That's camber.
No, caster. That's caster. Camber is this. I would say it's. I think it was on a pin. I think it's 0. I believe it's 0. Now I have all those notes downstairs. I apologize. I believe it's 0 or like half a degree or something. It was very minimal on the camber, but I know on the caster it was that high. But on the camber, I'm going to say it's close to 0.
No, camber. You're right. That's
this.
Okay, and that on a kingpin setup should be 0.
Yeah, I think it's 0 or like half a degree. I think it was like 0 to half a degree.
The camber. Think of it. If you got the axle laid back at 7 degrees, okay, your camber changes when you rotate the tires.
Yes.
Right. And so you want it to be 0 when it's tracking straight because it is going to change when you steer the wheel. Yeah.
But it was just for like, I believe it was for turning is what it was. Because if it was exactly 0, sometimes it would fold in. If it
No, the
was,
tire. What you're looking at is since it's laid back. Like it
yeah,
doesn't matter what it's laid back at, as long as it's not straight up and down, right? As
yes,
long as that kingpin's not straight up and down. If it's laid back like it should be,
yeah,
when you turn the wheel, it changes the camber. But what happens is,
we
let's
turn,
just say one wheel is like 3 degrees. Well, the
mhm,
other wheel is going to be -3 because it
yeah,
should be the reciprocal of that.
yeah. But when it turns, it gets crazy. So I believe it was 0 to half a degree in there in that range is what you're looking for.
That's probably right. You don't want it hardly any.
No, you don't want hardly any at all because it's a pin. It doesn't really move.
Buick Smith saying my brother has the same set of blackjack headers in his 91 GMC 350 since 1987, still holding in there. Must have been the only good set. I think it was probably the first ones they made. It was always the things that were like kind of odd where they didn't fit well. Like, I mean, okay, if you had like 70 to 82 Camaro, of course they fit like a glove, right? If you had 1974 Pontiac Ventura, they did not fit worth crap, right? The Oldsmobile guys had it even worse because Oldsmobile came in every full size and mid size GM from probably 74 on up, 75 on up, and all those headers never fit. They never. What we found on those things was that if it was claimed that a 455, they were a header for a 455, it would fit the short deck Oldsmobile a lot better than it would the tall deck 455. You know,
Yeah,
the 350s and 403s, because Oldsmobile, I don't know if you know this, Shane, like Oldsmobile literally just has a short deck and a tall deck block.
yeah.
That's the only difference between the engines.
I didn't know that. I just knew Pontiac was the
Well,
same block. I knew Oldsmobile was
the main bearing changes too.
on the
Changes the
main
main
bearing.
bearing size because the stroke changes on it. But every single small block has like 3.31 inch stroke, which is I just found out like the same as your 383, right?
Mm-hmm.
3.31, is that right? And then the big blocks all have the same stroke essentially.
I'm going to skip ahead because this is going to be a big question here. Buick Smith is asking this one, Lifter Tech. So, what is the procedure and tools used to check lifter board to cam position for flat tappet? And our engines with factory rollers have a different offset from the factory? No. The holes are in the exact same spot. The difference is going to be in the camshaft, and then the camshaft is usually going to be slightly off center for the lifter, so that way it can spin. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily where the flat tappet is in relationship to the cam. It's at what angle it is to the cam, because the bore going this way to the camshaft are never. Chevrolet seems to be the worst, and that's because when they would drill the blocks, it's the back of the block. If you look at where the freeze plug is in the back, it's never in the center of this. And I talked about this a few years ago, is that when I was building 350s and I was in the Corbin, I would look for one in the back that was mostly in the center. And then that would be the better one to get if you're going to build a flat tappet. But really what you need to do is if you're really, here's the thing, is that most of the good blocks have been used. And nowadays, all the blocks that either, continually have flat tappet cams go bad or whatever, it's because the lifter bores are not in the right angle or in the right position. And that seems to be a lot of the problem. It's not that the cams change. It's not all that the cams change or the metals or the oil or this and that. I've been saying this for years. It's literally the blocks are the leftover blocks now that were never the ones to begin with. And then the ones that would have been thrown away are the ones being used nowadays. And that's why a lot of these things are going bad. When it's at the machine shop, it should be checked before you do anything. For one, MagnaFlux, it should be checked for cracks, and it should be checked for line and lifter bore if you're going to run a flat tappet. But if you're going to do this, I just made a short about this. I literally paint a stripe on the push rods, and when I start the car up, in every oil change, I start it up and I run it, and I make sure that those push rods are spinning. And even when it breaks in the cam, I will have it open so I can watch them. If one stops spinning, that's the one that's going to go flat, and that is the absolute best way to see it, because if it's not spinning when it goes over the nose, then it's getting flat. It's going to go flat instantly on you. It's going to literally grind that cam down to dust. See here.
Best Devil Garage saying no header horror stories. I'm putting new headers in the dust for this weekend. Well, dude, I hate to tell you this. You're gonna have to take out that cross link, or the steering link, and you're gonna have to probably pull that driver's side torsion bar, unless those headers are multiple pieces.
Dizzy saying that Shane, heads are on and running, sounds nasty in running. That's awesome, man. Well, congratulations, man. I can't wait to see it at No Name Nationals. I'm going to be there Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Sometime Friday, probably Friday night, I have to leave. I got to be at MoCan on Saturday morning because that's day 0. That's check-in day. That's registration and inspection for 666. So I'll be there for that. So I can't wait to see it, man. I want to see you make a nitrous pass.
Old McDonald saying the older headers had thicker metal. You got that backwards, dude. The new ones are the ones that have the thicker flanges.
Yes.
And they're generally like a gauge or two thicker because they realized they were making them way too thin and that the heat was warping them to death. And then now when you spend $700 on a set of basic headers, and that's about what they cost now.
Vintage Venture Stars, I love some fender well headers, but I'm not getting them on in this engine in the Scamp. I'm telling you, on a Mopar, that is the way to go because you can literally just undo that mount, lift the engine up, set the headers in, and drop it back down and bolt them in. I fell in love with my fender wells on the 66, and I never went back. I never went to under chassis headers after that because it's so simple and so easy. And the ones on my car have a mid plate, so the mid plate bolts to the head, and then you just leave that on there. And then you just take off the little one so that way you're not in little funky areas. So yeah, I'm telling you, get some fender wells. They're amazing.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting about headers is if you go on YouTube and you watch, there's a video from Steve Morris, I think, and they were dynoing this, I think it was a Pontiac, and they ran that thing. And I mean, it literally lost power with headers on it.
Yeah.
Oh, and I mean, it lost a lot of torque too. I mean, a lot.
Yeah, if you don't have the cam set up, it's not wave tuned for it, you're going to lose power. The only reason why a lot of engines pick up power with headers is because the manifolds on some of them are super restrictive. If they're performance of manifolds, you're not really going to lose much. And if the cam is not designed for that type of wave tuning for the different wave orders, first, second, third, and fourth, you're not going to gain anything from them. You actually will lose some on the torque.
The thing that always surprised me was the headers would rust from the inside out.
Oh yeah,
and guys, and I was always okay. So I've always had this question: rusting headers from the inside out generally means that you can't paint the inside, which makes sense that they would rust from the inside out. But if you're racing it all season, right when you go to put it away, can't you just dump a quart of tranny fluid right down the fucking gullet of that motor and just coat the inside of that stuff to death?
Well, I've tried WD-40. I've tried everything. It's still rust.
I was just thinking tranny fluid right down the carburetor and let it smoke out, and it's gonna coat the inside of those headers.
I mean, yeah, you could probably do that. I did it with WD, but it just still, even my headers right now are just rust. They just, yeah. Wheelie King here says everybody complains about Mopar handling, rightfully so. The caster is the fix. Factory there about 4 degrees. You're exactly right. Set it at 8 and they become a completely different car. I have 7 on mine and it is a completely different car at 7. If I could get an 8 to 9 out of my car, it would be absolutely great because I've driven cars at the speed that I am at 9, and it's literally, you don't even have to hold on to the wheel. It just basically goes straight at that point.
Yeah. Wheelie King saying I have a very old set of Doug Thorley tri-wise and they weigh a ton. Not all old headers were cheap. No, they weren't. I actually, believe it or not, on the that white Ford truck that I had, Shane and I went and picked up. I put a set of Doug Thorley tri-wise on that thing. Yeah. And I bought them at the San Diego swap meet. You remember that? I walked up there and I'm like, oh my God, that's like a $600 set of headers. And that at that time, that was a lot of freaking money for a set of headers.
Yeah.
And I offered the dude $60. He was like, sure. I took him, he didn't even know. They don't even make them anymore. And I went to pick them up and I just damn near shit a chicken, right? Those 2 headers together, when I went to pick them up, I'll bet you they probably weighed 25, 30 pounds each side.
Yeah.
But they
You
were
know, that
stainless
was,
steel, and they had that 3/4 inch thick flange.
yeah. You know, the one thing I always tell people is that picking up that Ford was our very first adventure together.
Oh yeah,
That was our very first adventure. Yeah.
Let's see. Dylan Levi saying, "What's the fastest pass made by a car or truck at No Name Nationals that made the cruise to Lambert's? I'm wanting to beat that this year."
I think you have it. I think he has it.
Who, Dylan?
Yeah, I think so, because none of the guys who went. No, what about Redbeard? Did Redbeard drive that car to
No.
Lambert's?
No.
Then I think Levi's got it right now, because he went 585.
Yeah.
I didn't drive my car because I don't have street tires for it. I didn't drive it.
Well, there you go, Dylan. You're gonna have to beat yourself.
I think you have it now. I don't know that for a fact, but I think you do, because
he did drive
Redbeard
there.
What's that?
He did drive there to Lambert's, I think, every year.
He did. Redbeard, I know the first year went to 550 something. Second year, I think you had one of the faster cars the second year, because you went a 6.0 and the 281050 class, right?
Yeah, but I didn't drive it to Lambert's.
Yeah, but you didn't drive it to Lambert's. The third year that's when we had all those hitters show up, right?
Was that the third year? Yeah, I guess it probably was the third year.
Yeah. And then the fourth year was just the last one.
None of those guys drove them out of the track.
No, they only showed up for that day. And then
I don't think I don't think he drove his car out of the track either.
He didn't. He drove. Yeah, he didn't drive it. So, yeah, I think you have it. Now that's just a guess, but I think you have it. Yeah, exactly. I think you're going to race yourself, Levi.
Well, dang.
Yeah, Clint's saying that a lot of the Fox body headers started coming out with thicker flanges. Yeah, no, exactly, because that's always the problem. And the Blackjacks, they were they were like less than a quarter inch. They were like
they were a quarter-inch flange, and like just putting them on and tightening up the gasket, you could watch them flex.
Yeah, you'd watch them flex. Exactly. Yeah. And then as soon as you started them up, it made this horrific smell from that like death paint from those fumes. And then
that's because they shipped them with like the world's worst paint on it. And that's because if they didn't, they were using such low carbon steel that they would literally flash rust to death in the box.
Yeah, that's exactly
right. Yeah, that whatever paint they had put on them was the best thing to do with those Blackjack headers was take them somewhere and have them blasted and painted with some real paint.
Yeah. You know, on the Cookie Monster, that's VHT paint on that. You know that?
Yeah, I love the VHT paint. It works good.
And if you just do exactly what they say, it works great. I coated those. I've actually coated them twice. You basically get them hot, you clean them up, and then you paint them, and then you start it up and you cycle it a few times with heat, and then you let it sit, cool down, and then you do it again, and there it's on there. So that works really good. Were there any truck exhaust manifolds that were equal to or better than the HP 340 manifolds? I do not know the 100% the answer, but I can tell you right now, I don't believe so. And I'm going to say no. Because most of the truck ones were just not meant for high flow. They were literally made for torque.
No. Wouldn't the Warlock and the Little Red Wagon, wouldn't those have had probably the best manifolds you could get on a truck?
They were just, from what I've seen, they're just regular manifolds.
Oh,
they were just regular manifolds. In fact, what was his name? Just Mopar Joe just did a few videos. He built a couple engines for one of those things, and they had the manifolds on them, and it looked like truck manifolds.
I figured they would have had something. I want to say, well, maybe it's because they didn't have any emissions requirements at that time, but those trucks weren't they like probably the highest rated thing in Mopar's inventory?
Yeah, at that time, yes. And it's because of the exhaust literally went straight up. It came off the manifolds. There was no crossover, and it was just 2.5 inch right up the stacks. And then it had a hotter cam in it. And then they learned a lot of things about intake, carburation, and a few other things in timing. And then they had a decent head on it at that point. That's really what it was. Oh, here we go. Did say, hey, Mac the Warlock and Little Red Express manifolds. Got them on the Vagrant. So there you go. Yeah. Tomorrow's the day we find out if the Ram truck will make an appearance at No Name Nationals 26. If it goes good, the chances of it being there are extremely high. Well, that's awesome, man. Yeah, see, this is what I thought. I believe this. The Magnum manifolds are better, especially in the 92 and 93. That's what I was thinking, is that just anything in the Magnum was better than any of that other stuff as far as in the trucks. I just didn't know that off 100%, but I know that the Magnums, they just made really good heads and exhaust manifolds.
Well, that's something that's interesting, is that I need to take Andy up on his dyno club.
Yeah. Oh,
because
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and I was just looking at that, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
Okay. I really, all right. So my Buick junk, the early stuff has a 2.25-inch outlet on the. It's either 2-inch or 2.25-inch outlet on the exhaust manifolds, and then the later smogged out engines had like 2.25 or 2.5. It's a 1/4-inch bigger. And I thought, how cool would it be to run? You like cherry pick all the good parts for all the years and put them on one engine, right? And see what kind of power it would really make. Because I thought that would be kind of interesting, something to do. But I also had a great idea that, dude, I think we should go. I think for Andy's Dyno Club, I think we need to go over to North Carolina. I'll take my super stock Buick motor over there. We'll get a Holly all whiz banged up and throw it on there. Okay. And just get the best we can out of the Holly, and then start throwing carburetors at it and see what the difference between all of them are. And I started looking, and I found some really cool things. Like, you remember the 750 vacuum secondary Hollies that were spread bore?
Mm-hmm.
I found one on eBay for $25, right? And I'm like, dude, that is cool, because I mean, that would be what most people would swap from the get-go. Is it as good as a regular 750 vacuum secondary Holly? I don't know. And then I started thinking, well, let me look and see if I can find thermoquad, because that intake manifold will fit a square bore or a spread bore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it'd be kind of cool to do, just get a Holly tuned and use it as the standard, right? And then just throw everything else at it and see what happens. And come out.
I'll bring 2 VRSs. I'll bring a VRS 650 and a 750.
Well, I started thinking, dude, I did some searching on the webs, and I found 800 CFM thermoquad.
Oh,
right. I thought that would be cool to check out. The other thing I found was one of them 3-barrel Hollies from like way back in the day.
Oh yeah, yeah, you were talking about.
And I'm like, it'd be really cool to have like the ultimate carb shootout. Same engine, you got it all dialed in, and then just freaking hammer it, because you already know what the timing's going to be. You already know all the basic stuff. These are the numbers it should do, and then you just start changing carburetors. And like, once you get the Holly set up initially on the thing, the jetting for that Holly is not going to be much different than the vacuum secondary stuff.
That's right.
Yeah. And so you get your Holly vacuum secondaries all figured out, and then you get to the weird spread bores. But I just thought it would be really neat to have like an ultimate carburetor just beat down.
Yeah. So who's planning on coming to Dyno Day? I know I am. I'm kind of in this conundrum right now. I have the engine in, I have the transmission in, it's all mocked up. I know I'm going to break that rear end. I know I'm going to 7.25, and I'm going to dump the clutch and I'm going to break it. I have an 8.75 downstairs that just needs to be shortened. And I already have the chunk built and everything for a 276 gear with a posi, because I don't have a posi now. So now, do I put it all in there, make a drive shaft, knowing it's going to break, then put a rear end in it and then have to have another drive shaft made? Or do I just wait, try to put the axle in there and get it all done with an 8.75 and run it that way? So I don't know what to do at this point. So,
dude, I would do the 7.25 and just.
It's going to blow up, dude.
With your stick shift slant?
I think so. I think the second I put slicks on that thing on 666, I'm going to.
Don't you have a set of drag radials? Just run those.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, the drag radials. As soon as it gets traction, it's going to probably break that. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I've got plenty of drive shafts downstairs. I mean, it doesn't really make much of a difference. Oh, when I measured the drive shaft today, it's 53.5 inches is what I need. And that's actually almost 2 inches shorter than what I've got on everything. So I could just have one knocked down and put in. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Well, also the since it's shorter, your the frequency of the drive shaft is going to be
Yeah. Critical speed.
it would go the critical speed would go way up, right? Because it's
Yeah,
shorter.
it's going to go up. And then I'm going to go to a 4 inch aluminum, and then I'm going to go to a 1350 U joint. So that will go up. The aluminum makes it go up, and then the 1350. So, but I'm not changing the rear gear. So my critical speed is way down because I'm still running a 276 gear. So it's really when you go into like say the 450s or 391s, that's when the critical speed's a factor because you're going so many more turns per revolution of the tire.
Well, I'm hoping to be there. Fingers crossed. Not with my Buick, but or not with my T-Bird also.
Yeah.
I think I might take something that nobody's seen me work on yet because I haven't worked on it in years. But I need to get it done and out of my effing driveway.
That sounds amazing. I think I know what it is. Dom won't say a word, but that would be awesome. LC2 Kid says he's been working on a 68 Dart 340, not a Mopar guy, but it's got an initial of 18 and 36 total, all in by 2,500. Is that normal? 100%. Car runs decent. Yes, that sounds exactly about what I would normally do. I would run a compression test on it just to see what kind of numbers it is. I've gotten away with a little bit more timing if it's lower, like say 140 pounds.
That's a lot of initial.
Well, they seem to like that.
Is it just because the big bore short stroke and the low piston speed?
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Yeah, and also too, if it's if it's an automatic with not the right stall in it, you got to run a lot of initials so that way it won't stall when you put it in drive if it's got a low. So I had to run that on a lot of mine because I was running nitrous, so I ran a stall that was lower than what I needed, but when I hit the nitrous, it actually flashed where I wanted it. But I had to run a shit ton of initial for that exact thing. Typically, if it's got the correct amount of stall in it, I would run them at about 15 degrees and then about 36, but 18, if it's got a really crappy stall, sounds about right. But yeah, and that way too, if it's 18, you can really idle that thing down because it's going to make a shit ton of torque at idle. It'll be fun.
So KS Skyhawk saying my 79 Buick 350 exhaust manifold outlet is 2 1/4. So that's what it was the later ones were 2 1/4, but the early ones are 2-inch. So they're much higher flowing exhaust manifold.
Buick took away my surprise, so I'll just say it here. Dallas, I'm going to bring a Predator.
Put on that. Dude, I think I'm just telling we should try to get as many carburetors as possible.
Yeah.
And then just see if we can get them like what's going to best what would be the best carburetor. And like how you need to compare it, I think is based on average horsepower, average torque, right? Because some of them are going to peak sooner than others because the port velocity is so much higher through that 650 than a 750, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing I'm thinking is I think we need to average the AFR. Once you get it dialed in, average the AFR across there. And I think that's going to give you a better.
This is not going to tell the whole story. This is only going to tell wide open. If this is a true carburetor test,
well, then we have to do right. It needs to be done on the road.
We have to do a drivability also. So we have to do the dyno, and then this will be a multi-part thing. You do the dyno runs, which one made the most average horsepower or power, and then also too you could do brake specific fuel, yada yada yada. Which one used the fuel better, so on and so forth. But then you're going to have to do something about drivability. Do something like in fourth gear or third gear from 30 miles an hour to 60, which one accelerated better from that time to that time. You could do that with the Dragy. That way you can actually see how well does it use the velocity coming through the Venturi. Does it atomize better and this and that? And just drive it. You can also do some of that on the dyno too. You can drive them on the dyno.
Right. Well, you can also, I think, what would be smart? Dude, this would be great for like my Suburban, where we took all the carburetors, just put them in the back, and then give each one a 200-mile run.
Yeah.
Right? You do a drag strip pass with it, and then do a 200-mile run with the carburetor, and then swap it out, put another one on, and 200 miles back.
Yeah.
It would be kind of cool because you got all the room, all the tools, and it would all be the same weight the whole time, right? And then, I mean, it's not going to be fast by any means, but it's like you'd have something you can compare all of them to. I think that would be kind of cool. I don't know about that Predator. The Predator would absolutely suck at drivability.
No, they actually, because they have a variable venturi on top.
Right, but those things were great at wide open throttle. They were not good at part throttle.
If now I've tuned them both ways, and I have all the cams. I have an A, a B, a C, and then I have a blink. The A cam worked really well on the street for drivability, as long as now they have a spring on there too. So if you would have to adjust the spring, so the same setting for drivability is not the same setting for wide open.
Right.
You can adjust that spring so that way it's harder for it to open, right? And if you
leaving it smaller so it has more velocity across the venturi.
Exactly, and so that way it opens up more velocity and it atomizes better, and it works really good. So you can tune them both ways, and then the Predators that I have an idle circuit on them, and air bleed for idle. So both of them do, because I actually have two Predators. So and they work really good for that. But the Predators I have got the bigger extra bowl. So I want to get rid of that. I just want to run the regular bowl. But these ones are made for like methanol, type of carburetor. For like they were on top of a huffer.
So. Okay. Dylan Levi says he won't be making the dyno day. Clint Street Machine says no carb shootout will be complete without a Predator. So Vintage Adventure Drive says, what's the power difference between a single or a tunnel ram and a low rise single plane from your experience?
Train tracks. They separate.
It's going to be, the torque and the horsepower is going to be like literally huge numbers. If you get it tuned right, it should be huge numbers above that single plane.
The thing is, you've seen this on engine power, or what is it? Or is it Engine Masters? But we've actually seen it on our dyno at Edelbrock too. Is that the mid-range torque and the tunnel ram just stomps all over everything. But on the very top end, the single plane seems sometimes to take over the tunnel ram at the very end of the power.
I wonder if that's from a plenum volume standpoint.
I think it's because of how long the runners are, and then I think it's the wave tuning. I think it's
it could be, I guess, because the runners are really long compared to the single plane.
Yeah, and the how long the runners are to how big the plenum is. Now, plenum volume doesn't make much of a difference. I mean, you can go big and small; it's very little. But I think because of how long that runner is, and where it goes to the plenum, and how many barrels there are for it to send the signal back, I think it gets a little scattered at the top end. It's just a theory, but it does separate. But you've gained so much in the mid range. The tunnel ram is the way to go.
All right. So here's the same question we get every year. Oh my God. What certs does a helmet need for running down the drag strip? It's been a while since I've looked. Okay. It needs to be, if it's a DOT motorcycle helmet. Oh my God. I can't remember what the DOT
isn't it 2020? Is that no, we're at
20. It's 5. You're always looking at 5 years difference.
2021
right?
Then.
So I think it is a 2021.
Yeah, it's 2021. That would be the last year that it'd be good. For I think that's a Snell number, right? Is that the Snell?
No, it's the 5 or Snell number. You're right.
Snell number 2021. But then helmet, I think it's good.
The motorcycle helmet is allowed
to 740.
Yeah, 740s is generally where that number takes over. And I mean, if you run a 739, Deke's not going to throw you out of there. You got a helmet on, right? It's just the motorcycle helmet isn't intended for inside the vehicle use. You got to think about how these helmets are made and why there's such a huge difference between them. Okay, the Snell one is meant to be used in a motorsports application where you're sitting inside of a car with a roll cage, and it could be like you could catch on fire in there. Okay, a motorcycle one doesn't really deal with fire at all because you're generally thrown free of the motorcycle and the gas tank's not pouring on your head, right? Or getting oil.
I'm listening to you, man, but It's always these guys. I bet the E85 carb wins the Dallas competition. Dallas.
It could.
We're not going to test it. How about this? We won't even test one.
We're going to use the same fuel on all of them.
Yeah, we're going to use the same fuel on all, but it was just perfect.
It is funny.
So exactly. That's why I didn't mean to laugh at what you're saying. It's just I was reading ahead and I saw it. So Dylan says, do you guys have those moments where you know you have a certain part, but spend days looking for it, come up with nothing, and have to order it? I have a shifter cable for her S10, but it grew legs. Dude, I'm telling you, I have a whole... That happens to me on every project. I have to put the parts inside the car for that exact.
What it is, I'll find it 2 months later, like, oh, that's where I put it at. Dang, that's right. And I do remember myself putting it there after I see where it's at.
And now you have a spare part. Here's the problem: is that now, because that car is running, the spare part goes on the shelf. Then you break the part that you bought. Then you're trying to look for the spare part that you can't find. Now you got to buy it again. I've done this 3 times, or I've had something, I've lost it, bought it, broke it, couldn't find it, bought it again, and then have it. It is a pain in the butt. It happens all the time, and it gets worse as you get older. Promise you that. Oh yeah, Vintage Adventure drives. I've been looking for my carbide burrs for days. I now have them somewhere in the shop. They came over during the move, and I've used them recently. Can't find them.
Yeah. Clint says it always happens at the worst times. I lost my favorite ratchet recently. Found it after I bought a new one. It was just laying in a random drawer in my toolbox.
Done that too.
I'm thinking about my... So Vintage Adventure Drive says, I'm thinking about taking my single plane and doing an A/B test at no name for the tunnel ram versus a single plane. I would never do it at a race.
Yeah, don't do it at a race. Well, not in the same day.
I would do it at a race, period. I'm not... All right, I'll tell you what. This is Murphy's Law.
Okay? Me too. I'm with you on this one. I already know where you're going.
When you get set up for a race, you leave it as it is. It doesn't matter if you get a better part, you find more ET, whatever.
Yep.
Because Murphy's Law dictates the second you change it, you'll never get it running right again. Not while you're there. And then one day it'll be just the dumbest thing. You find it, and it has nothing to do with what you did. It just happened at the same time.
Yep.
You know, like the ballast resistor will go bad. And you're like, what in the fuck? That makes no sense. It's like the ballast resistor's bad. And, you know, lo and behold, it was. But the last thing you did was the intake manifold.
Yeah.
You always see, okay, and you've seen this a million times, because if you ever watch like any of the Street Outlaws stuff, somebody will scramble to put something together, and then they go out and they perform worse than they did if they just went out there in their tennis shoes and ran. Right.
But here's the thing, though. Now, this makes a difference, because if it's a small block, I would say no. But if it's a big block, I say yes, because there's no water in it. There's no water in a big block Mopar. You literally
I'm just saying, it never seems to work out. What you'll find, I'm telling you, is the dumbest things that'll ever happen. You go do that intake manifold swap, you put it all on there, everything goes flawless. You got all of your friends there. Everybody knows how to tune a tunnel ram. It's no problem whatsoever. And you'll spend an entire day, 2, trying to tune it, and you can't get it tuned because some dumb fuck milled the intake manifold to fit a block that had been decked.
That's right, a different angle. So you'll take it off and not be able to put it back on.
And you will find it 2 years later. It'll make all the sense in the world when you find it. But at that time, you're just scratching your head, and it's something that you never even thought of, right? Now, you know, I'm just throwing that out there because, and Dylan Levi will tell you himself, if you spend the entire No Name Nationals working on something, you miss the entire No Name Nationals.
Yeah, that happened to him, and I felt so bad for him when they found the crack in the transmission. They literally were bolting it together, and it was a crack in the tranny. It was terrible. I felt bad for that dude. I thought about that for months, man. I was just like, man, that sucks.
I went over there and tried to talk to him, but at that time he was so determined that you couldn't talk any sense into him. Like, look, man, Brooke's sitting over there by herself, and you're just covered in grease. And I'm like, dude, you could load this up and just go home and do this. Why don't you go spend some time with? And then the next year he was like, you know what? You were right. I did it all wrong. You know, I should have just called it quits, enjoyed it because we never got anything done. And the sad part was it wasn't just Dylan. I mean, I'm not trying to bust his balls. There was a lot of the same guys, like your indirect connection. He's generally the second guy to help you out, no matter what you're working on, right?
Yeah.
Jason from indirect connection. And he'll spend the whole entire No Name Nationals working on something too. And he did that last year with Jamie's Barracuda, so Jamie could run the Barracuda.
Yeah.
But it's like you don't want to be that guy, and I'd hate to see you do that, and then you are that guy, because you'll miss the whole entire thing.
Yeah. So now I'm going to. This is where probably Dallas and I will very rarely disagree, but he says that my car having a big block, and now that I know it's a big block, I say do it, because you don't even need to change the gaskets, literally, because it's got the valley pan. Take that intake off. The other one doesn't bolt on. You just bolt the other one right back on. It's 8 bolts, and it's literally 15 minutes. I've done this at the track. I would say go for it, man. That would be awesome. And I would be so stoked to see both of those happen. That would be amazing. And that way you could really do an A to B comparison, because it's, that would be, especially if you could do it the same day, that would be awesome. And don't forget, go see our sponsor, WAF Racing. Right now, he's on an epic drive. He's done a couple drag drives. Right now, currently, he's in Canada with that car. So he drove it from Springfield, Tennessee, went to Montana, no trailer. This thing drove, towing a trailer, and then he did a drag and drive there. He's out doing another drag and drive, and then he's going to come back and do another drag and drive. So he's putting almost 5,000 miles on this 600 horse small block Mopar with this the secret thing that he's testing for us. So dude's an animal.
I got an email from him yesterday.
Okay. Mr. Woz?
Yep, from Chris Wozniak. Track Buddy app from WAF Racing.
You got to check that out.
Huh?
You got to check that out. That is awesome.
Well, he says, first off, thank you very much for supporting WAF Racing, past and or present, by purchasing one or some of our products. Many of our products are inspired by passion for drag racing, particularly the unique challenges of drag racing and drag and drive events. So he talks about, he's released now the Track Buddy, which is a virtual notebook that you pretty much just take all of your stuff and include it in this app on your phone, and it puts all the data together. What I really think is cool about this is that I know you can get weather apps for your phone, and they're really good at measuring or at predicting or measuring or whatever DA, because it's gotten way better than it has initially started off.
Now the Track Buddy's got that on it, so it will record that for you.
Oh, does it have the DA?
Yeah, and also too, it's gotten to the point now where you can take a picture of your time slip and it will populate, so you don't even have to put it in there. The only thing you have to do now is just do your setups in there, and then when you move on to the next one, it will basically keep updating, so that way you'll know this was this timing, and you can put all your different changes, and then it will plot your changes for you if it helped you or hurt you. And then it also has a correction factor. So say you go out there and the DA went away, and it's 8,000 feet, and your car slowed down 0.2. You're like, what the hell's going on? But then it corrects the DA for what it had before, and it'll tell you if you actually lost power or sped up. So it's a pretty amazing app, and I've been playing with it. I want to learn more about it before I tell more people about it. But it's a pretty amazing app. You should everyone should check it out and go over to WAF Racing, because the days of clipboards, how many times do you lose that little pit slip that you always have, and you're always filling it out? This is done right on your phone. It's amazing.
Yeah. Okay, so Clint's talking about getting over here to his long run 300 Buick. We should be firing it up here in the next week or two. I need to do a video on that because it's going to be pretty interesting to see what happens when we fire that sucker up. Let's see. Dean Stevenson says the account I heard was that Ack Miller used to drive 22 hours from Pico River to Bonneville and back to do a speed running. Is road legal? He did not work on his car for a 1-day qualification race. Okay, never mind. That was just as weird as Dean. Brooks says, "What's the difference between an SFI 3.2A1 suit and a 3.5 or an SFI 3.2A5 suit?" Okay, it's the layers and
Yes.
fire resistance.
Hmm.
Okay, you do not want a 5-layer suit.
Nope. Too hot.
You would melt in that sucker. So get the 1 layer, which is what all you need.
Yeah, that's all you need. Mohawk 62 saying, some people think I may be lazy because I haven't done a damn thing to my Scamp, but that's is the number one reason why I don't mess with it. Someone else always comes up. Something else always comes up. It's not that you're lazy. It's just that's life. I mean, I'm trying to build this car in between having 3 kids. Cash is wrestling. Gage, driving to work. Roxy's doing, the flag was a color guard. And, I've got a life in between that, so that's all comes first. Car comes second. Way after that. Then there's the wife and all the other things, stuff around the house. It's not that you're lazy, just that you got other shit to do, and that's, if I had nothing else to do, that car would have been done months ago, but I can only work on it when everyone's asleep. And there's only maybe some days during the week, 1 or 2 hours. That's literally all I get.
I have a rule of thumb. If I go to the track, that sucker gets loaded up and taken home if I got to work on it. If I got to break out tools like more than just adjust a carburetor or something, if I'm looking at pulling a tranny or whatever, I'm loading it up and bringing it home. I'm not even going to mess with it. I'll just stop where I'm at. That's what happened last year at No Name Nationals. I made 2 passes and the transmission started slipping. Well, there was no secret sauce I could put in there short of, lava soap to get it to grip, lock up the clutches. So I just load her up, and I don't even think I loaded it up. I just let it sit there all week. Dallas, did you use the DLC lifters in Clint's 300? And no, I did not. Clint got some new old stock lifters from like the 90s.
Oh, so that'd be fine.
Yeah, it should be fine, but these are also the ones I had a problem getting them in the block. They did not slide in easily.
So now Clint says, I forgot who it was because I remember this too, but somebody was giving out 2564 sockets at the first No Name Nationals. Do you remember who that was?
Was that Dougster?
I don't. Well, he gives out potatoes.
I know, but did he give out 2564 sockets?
I don't remember who it was. Someone was.
That No Name Nationals, dude, you guys, you got me. Well, that one was so bad for me because John and I were plugging so many holes with the track and dropped stuff, and nobody expected anybody to like the magnitude of people that we had there. Nobody expected that, so they weren't prepared, and they had. I can't remember everything that was all screwed up with that. That was me and Barkley running around like our hair was on fire for 2
And that was the year that they had that was a big block 402, sent all the parts onto the bottom, onto the track.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, but the big one was the sandbox was all figured out, right? Yeah. Hey, the sandbox, the shutdown area is all figured out. That's all good to go. It was not even close. John and I ended up having to organize some guy to come out there and drop off 3 loads of sand just so the thing was level, right? And that was something that took 2 or 3 days that we didn't expect. Let's see. The crew that was supposed to deliver all the stuff to keep everybody safe at the burnout contest, they only delivered about half of what they had promised. And then the half that they delivered was pretty much junk. They still wanted to charge us like some ungodly amount of money. And luckily John talked to him and was like, look, man, make this right. I mean, this is not fair. So they at least didn't charge us all the money, but really we wanted all that stuff to be in place so that nobody would get hurt, right? It wasn't for anything other than that. But it was just, everything was difficult. The light plants were difficult. I had to fight. I had secured them 3 months before. And then when I went to pick them up, it was like they'd never even heard of me, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we only have so many light plants. That's why I booked it 3 months ago. right? So it shouldn't be a problem. Oh, well, we sent them out. Okay. Well, then one, refund my money, and two, let's find some light plants somewhere.
Yeah.
Ended up having to get some light plants last minute from like, I think Sunbelt is who I rented them from. They found two of them the next town over that had all the lamps were burned up. So I had to bring it back to that shop, and we changed the bulbs in it, and then went to hook it up to the truck, and none of the lights on the trailer worked. This thing had got struck by lightning or something.
Oh my God.
And, yeah, it was a mess, man. And I mean, the whole entire No Name Nationals was that way. It was like, everybody's like, "Hey Dallas, I need fuel. Hey Dallas, did you bring bug spray? Hey Dallas, where is John Wilburn at?" Like, and then I'm meeting all these people that I had never put a face to the name.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, my brain was fried. And John and I worked so hard that first, like, No Name Nationals. I think we were there a week ahead of time or 4 days ahead of everybody else or something. We worked so hard and so long, so many hours of the day, that our lips had split from being dehydrated for so long. And we were sunburned on top of a sunburn on top of a sunburn. It was so bad.
Mohawk 62 says that was New Guy's guitar with the sockets.
Oh, New Guy's guitar?
I maybe meant to say New Guy's garage, but I don't know. Vintage Venture Drive says that I can attest. I have just having a girlfriend living with me and living that life, plus having to order parts, is making working on the car hard to do. My projects are taking longer. Yeah, they will. Anytime that you have someone or just taking care of a house or anything, that literally just takes a back seat because there's always so much more to do. And then add 3 kids to that, and
it gets worse. Yeah, like when you start becoming a responsible man, you'll have less time for projects and more time for just putting out fires is really what it is. And that's like when my whole divorce started, a lot of it started over my daughter was acting up. And the way I look at it is like, I'm pretty good at swimming, right? And I can swim holding a lot of stuff in each arm. But man, when I tell you what, when my kids started screwing up at school and just start screwing up her own life and all kinds of stuff, dude, that was the biggest weight around my neck I ever got, was that, like, pull me to the bottom of the pool and just leave you there. Your family is a huge impact on how well you can get these projects done or never done. They will turn something into an eternity or empower you to have it done within a couple of hours.
And that's the main reason why I don't have any desire to be a YouTuber at all, because I don't have time for it. I really don't. I barely have time to videotape the projects that I'm working on. And that's literally why I do this for you guys on Wednesday nights. I have no problem doing it at night. But other than that, it's literally just to document my builds. That's it. That's all I have for the YouTube channel, is just to document my builds and share some information. So Ron is saying, and I agree with him on this one, Direct Connections original 484, 284 cam for the big blocks was an absolute beast of a camshaft for street driven cars. I absolutely agree with you. I had that cam in there. Somebody convinced me to put the 509 cam in there, and it was absolutely terrible. A car could barely drive up a driveway because I didn't have enough converter in it. I went back to that cam when I had the 400, and I loved it. It was absolutely like the best all around. Not necessarily, it was kind of a hot driver, but it was a hot driver, and it just worked amazing. I love that. But now there's better profiles. So good.
In the Ford 5-liter world, the one I always liked was the E-Cam.
Oh yeah.
The E-Cam, guys always say, yeah, that B-Cam is so much better, but man, that E-Cam, you could idle with a regular automatic transmission, and then it pulled like a freight train from like 2,500 to 6,000. Oh, it was unbelievable.
It's kind of like this one. This was more like to maybe 55 to 6,000, depending on your cubic inch. But you needed a 2,200 stall, so you can get one of the factory high stalls for that, and it would work if you had a decent gear in it. It just worked really, It was just amazing. So here, this is for you, Dallas. That first year was crazy. I tried to help as much as I could, but you and John had a pretty good handle on it. And although you appreciated my offer, you opted to handle it yourselves. And I remember you guys running around, man. And I came over to you, and I was like, dude, how you doing? You're just like, you look so burnt out and spent. It was probably the most tired I've ever seen you.
Well, and it was also at the end of the racing season, and it was like a really hard racing season that year because it was well, I mean, it was after COVID, right? So you're just struggling to keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was already having family issues at that point, even at that No Name Nationals.
That was in 22, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in 22. Yeah, me too. That's the reason why I was only there for that one day. It's just because I was having I had just been gone the week before to drag week, and then came back, and the very next weekend was No Name.
Yeah. Clayton's Toolbox says racing with an air cleaner or without better flow or turbulence issues without. You're going to have guaranteed racing without an air cleaner is always going to be faster than racing with. Guaranteed. It doesn't matter. Now, there is a difference between leaving the base of the air cleaner on, because that's going to be your best flow, actually. If you just leave the base, take the element out, take the lid off, find some way to strap it down or hold it in place, it's going to get the best it's ever got with just the base.
Yeah. In fact, that's what I did is I made a base that has a that plops down, and my air cleaner would my hood scoop attaches to that. So literally it's just the base of the carburetor and then a piece of metal. So that way the air coming in would just collect in that and go straight in. And the car picked up. I went a tenth faster, went a 630 to a 620 by just adding that before I started spraying it with nitrous. So it definitely does help.
Valiant Adventure Drives, or Valiant Adventure 1973 says, I'm trying to add some kids. Slow down. You guys are in too much of a hurry. You're still young. Enjoy yourselves. Kids are going to be there all the way up through your 40s. Slow down. Learn to enjoy each other. If you feel like you gotta have kids tomorrow, go get a dog. All right.
Yeah. That's the first thing I would recommend. In fact, when Lisa wanted to have kids, we went and got a dog. And that is your very first step of having to take care of something. You just can't run away. I mean, I didn't have my very first kid that I know of until 35, and then I had the twins at 40. That's way late, but here's the thing is that I was way more settled financially. I was much more stable. Now in California, it was harder because I had to wait later because housing is so expensive, even right now, but even back then it was still super expensive. And we had roommates literally in everything. Even when we bought a house, we still had roommates just to help afford it. I didn't want to be in that position. So I wanted to make sure that I was in a point where I didn't have roommates, didn't have any of that stuff, and had a little bit of a nest egg. So that way the kids weren't constantly moving and they could live. As I say that, we moved from California to Tennessee, but it was almost 6 years ago, but still, just take your time. Me and Lisa were together 10 years before we had kids. So just take some time.
Yeah, Vintage Adventure Drive says, I love my 509 purple shaft, but I would never say it's the best. It works well enough. Dude, I'm telling you, there's enough hot rodders in here that when they bring up like a camshaft, like this is the best, you need to probably take that as verbatim. They've tried it. They've already done it. They were sold on it. And generally what you find is somebody sold them on it to begin with.
Yeah.
And so it's got a good name for a reason. If you're feeling that 509 purple shaft is not the best, it's probably not.
And that's the reason right there. 3,500 stall. You can run this cam right here, what Ron says. And if you got a stick shift, you're totally fine. But if you had, say, a 22 or 2,500 stall, which pretty much any Mopar would, aftermarket's going to have one of those things, this cam works amazing. And here's Duster Garage, the exact same cam in a small block 360, almost in the tens. And that is true. I was running 1120s, 1130s with that exact cam back in the 90s. And it was amazing. And then I sprayed a 200 shot and a 250 kit on top of that. So it's an amazing, and it's drivable. I mean, And like Ron says here, the cold start was the sound dreams are made of. Absolutely right, because it just had this sound. It was great. Oh yes, vintage. Remember, kids are permanent, and they don't leave at 18. No.
It's like 25. A 25-year commitment.
25, because at 20, you're responsible for them even after 18 for insurance purposes till they're, I think it's 25. Yeah. Yep. Let's see.
Clint Street Machine says, I've heard making kids is the best part of having them, but mine were. No, that's not true at all. Okay. And that's because you don't have any kids, and you said yours were in their 20s when you got them used, and that's because they were already part of a pseudo family. And so you missed the best parts. The best part, I think, of being a father, like of kids, there's nothing bad about having kids at all. That's really bad. Like you watch them be knotheads. That's probably the worst thing, because you're like, I can see how this is going to play out, and it's going to be bad. And then it plays out exactly like you had imagined it. And then it's like actually bad, if not worse than what you had expected. But the coolest thing is the time from when they go from the gelatinous crying blob to they start making sentences and running around and doing stuff. That's when it all comes home.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's really short too.
Yeah. And the sad part is like, the kid's crying all the time and pooping all the time and just drinking milk. And then if it's not doing that, it's sleeping or crying. Yeah. You're like, man, I can't wait for this to end, because this shit sucks. And it does suck.
Yeah. But it goes by fast.
I tell you what, when they start saying stuff and doing stuff, and you get those surprise hugs, or you get the surprise wake up in the mornings, and I'm not talking about from your wife, but I'm just talking about the kids coming in, busting in, jumping on your bed. That stuff is like, and the first time they get an A or just smoke something, like absolutely blow away a test or a quiz. Yeah. It's like, man, I've never been one that's to really suffer from pride, but geez, I could see how easy it would be to suffer from being over prideful with a child that's like, especially one that doesn't have any problems. Like you wake up in the morning and you're like, hey kid, brush your hair, and as they're brushing their hair, and you're like, oh sweet, and if it's like they're firing, forgetting, they do everything great, man, I would be like so prideful.
Yeah. Ron's got the best advice here. If you're starting itching for kids, volunteer at the time at the Boys and Girls Club. You'll lose those feelings in a big hurry. So, yeah. Okay. When I build my purpose-built 400 for that scam, Shane will be on my call list for the cam selection. Absolutely. I'm telling you right now, before you build the cam, we've said this before, get some heads. Buy the best heads that you can, and we'll build around it, because there's so much more to be made in heads than the camshaft. Power's in the heads. Cam is basically the brain. It just tells the engine where to make power in. And then if you've got good heads with good flow, you don't need as much camshaft because the heads are already there. Oh yeah, right here. Vintage Adventure drives a Street Hemi grind is a sleeper cam. If you want the car to be quick without all the radical idle and bravados, use the Street Hemi grind with 355 gears. Yes, they actually are very deceiving. They have a kind of like a, if I can give a sound, it's got that 6-pack cam sound. Hemi Street grind. It's got like a very low muscle car sound, but nothing like the big boogity. But man, when it hits, boy, does that thing thump.
Right below that, Ron Moore says, I don't miss those daddies. I don't feel so good. Insert puking noises here at 3 a.m. I'll tell you the funniest one, that white Ford truck that I had put together that Shane and I always say that Shane helped me go get, and that was our first adventure and all this and that. When we first moved here to Tennessee, I took my son out to eat at Waffle House for breakfast, and the girl that was working there, he recognized her from one of the little shindig things that they do at the temple, the Lao temple, right? Anyway, he was only like 2 or 3, and he recognized this girl, and she recognized him, and she kept refilling his chocolate milk, and he kept drinking it. Well, next thing you know, we're getting ready to leave, and he's like 3 glasses of chocolate milk in, right? And he's like 3 years old, and it's summertime, it's hot. We get in my old Ford truck, and he's got his own little jump seat in the center, and we get fired up and backing out of the parking lot at the Waffle House, and we go to hit the road, and he was like, "Hey, Dad, I'm not feeling so good." I said, "Oh, well, what's wrong?" And I mean, like, it projectile vomited the inside of the truck where it sprayed on the windshield and just like went on everybody inside the truck, right?
Oh, terrible.
It was horrible.
That means it went into the
you can't get it out of the seats and the carpet because it's milk, right? And it's so after about 3 days, I mean, like, I'm out there, I got the seats out of them, I'm hosing them out, and I got that carpet cleaner that you got from the grocery store trying to suck all that stuff out. It smelled something terrible. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. But yeah, I get it, Ron. I totally get it. And then there's what we used to call the number 3. You could take a number 1 or a number 2, but then you got the number 3, right? Which was like the whole backside freaking turds coming up the back, you know, and you just take the child and you literally pick it up, and it's like acting all normal child, like and happy and giddy and with poop all up its hair, and you just walk right in the shower.
Yep.
Yeah,
we call that a blowout when it
a blowout.
Yeah,
we call it the number 3.
Vintage Venture Drive says mostly parts. My car will never be a sleeper. It's an image car that I'm trying to make just look as fast as it looks. Loud side pipes with low cam, cut fender rolls, and hand painted letters. I think that's going to be awesome, man. Yeah, I'm happy for you, dude. And I believe he's got a 400. It's a 400 in that thing, right?
Yeah,
I think it's a 400. Oh man, I ran the shit out of a 400. I blew it up by running nitrous to it. If I would have changed the pistons, that thing probably still would have survived. Yeah. Oh man.
Well, he's supposed to race Thumper.
Oh, is that
the sweaty fat guy? He's Thumper's bringing down his Pontiac Ventura with a 400. They're going to run, lightweight cars with 400 cubic inch engines against each other.
That's awesome, man. That's going to be a race because I like that kind of stuff where it's a low buck race where you're going to have so much fun with that because I miss those days of having a car that ran 13, 12s, even up into the 11s, the high 11s. It was so much fun driving your car like that. It was just lap after lap after lap, knowing you're not going to kill it. It was great. I definitely want to get back to that at some point and just have fun. Vintage Venture Drive said, I threw up in the back of my dad's 69 Mustang Coupe when I was in kindergarten. Yeah.
I was just thinking about that. I threw up on my mom's car. When I was a kid, my mom had a 62 Impala, 62 Bel Air 4-door, right? And that car didn't even have seat belts. So my spot, like every time we went somewhere, it was loaded up, had my grandparents in there and my sisters. And so I used to climb up on the package tray, and that was like my spot, the package tray, right? And it was like the world's deadliest spot because, I mean, if you slammed on the brakes, you'd go freaking flying through the car and you just eat the windshield.
Yeah.
I threw up back there on that package tray.
In the green car, I've had every single kid's puked in my car, right? But because it was the Darton and whatever, I literally would just hose it out. Didn't care. Just hose it out and just kept hosing it out. It would make a pool back there. And then I would in California, it didn't matter because it was so dry. I'd just leave the windows down. Thing would dry out the next day and it was good to go.
I would get so mad at Wyatt. He was like one of those people that, like, I don't know, it was just like the weak gag reflex kind of dude. And once he started gagging, it was over. It was over. It was coming out.
Yeah.
Right? It didn't matter. And it would be like, something dumb, gum in your mouth, and he and it's like, damn it. Kid, look, if you know you're going to puke, because I can tell you're going to puke, run over to this trash can and just puke in the trash can instead of me spending an hour cleaning up all this barf, right? And that day we left to go on that trip down Route 66, that was the first thing that happened. We were driving up like up 15 until you get to Barstow, and we had just got on 40 going east from Barstow, and I don't remember what it was. I think he ate a chip, and it touched the back of his throat, and he gagged, and blah, all over. Here I am, 1 mile into our freaking 1,500-mile trip, and there's barf all over the back of that new Dodge Ram. Remember that Ram I had, the diesel one? Barfed all over the back seat.
Wow,
terrible. Poor wife.
He says, give this. It's got plenty of lope, especially at low idle. Give it some consideration. Here's the thing, is that I can make that cam with better lobes, more air into the curve. It'll sound exactly the same. And then instead of it being a straight duration cam, I will make it a split duration. So that way it just will run better, and it will make even more power, and it will sound exactly the same. And run that way. So yeah, we can definitely improve upon it now that I know. And John says that the Mopar 400 rules. I agree. I just wish that if from the factory, I know I can do it now, I could get a 400 Mopar big block and a 904 behind it. To me, that would be the ultimate Mopar setup if there was just that way to do that from the factory. I know I can make a 904 with internals in a 727, but it would just be really cool if I could have done that from the factory.
Okay.
Is this it?
Further down there? No.
Okay.
So Indecisive Garage says, Shane, I'm throwing together a small block Chevy 383 stroker. Trick flow, 215 heads, 13.5 or 13.3 to 1 compression, drag race only. What cam and lifters would you recommend?
If it's a drag race only, I'd go with a roller.
Solid roller.
If it's a drag race only, and because looking at your basically combination of parts here, cost isn't really going to be an issue, and because it's going to sit for so long between time on a flat tappet, that's where you're going to have a problem. Is if it sits for a very long time, and then you go to fire it back up, those lobes are going to be dry. That's something, you would have to take the cam out, and then spray some oil and lifters. If it's going to sit, say, 5 or 6 months on a flat tappet, I would just go with a roller. That's what.
Buy something reputable. Don't buy a single Chinese part, because what I found is, especially race engines, right? The stuff that they make like the roller rockers that are just so poorly constructed that you can look at them and go, oh my God, I would never run this on my street car. But I've seen guys wipe so much stuff out just using cheapy junk Speedmaster parts. Ugh. Buy something reputable. It's meant for the abuse and RPM. But the 383, I don't like the spinning them that hard, because the Chevrolet's always got the small mains, right? It's like 2.48 main, something like that. It's almost 2.5-inch main, and that stroke on there was originally the crankshaft for a 400, right?
Yeah,
which 3.75. Huh?
3.75. Yeah.
Yeah, and it originally had like a 3-inch main, did it not?
Yeah, it's much bigger. Yeah.
And so the overlap on that crank is just like negligible. There's probably none. And you're just relying on a really beefy crankshaft to make that work. And because the piston speed is going to be so much more, and it's because of the rod angle is going to be so much more, they're not as happy to rev as like a 355. But if you're going to do this and you already got the block and the crank, I mean, if you don't have the block and the crank, I would recommend going the other way. They used to make a 125 bore Chevrolet small block that you could buy, like an aftermarket block, and then put like a 350 crank in it. I mean, it came out to like 377 cubes.
Yep.
And that one was so much happier to do what you're trying to do right there.
But to give you numbers though for this, I mean, just by outside numbers, if that's what you're asking, I would run a roller. But I would be, if it's a drag race only type of thing, and with that kind of compression and that cubic inch, I would be somewhere in the 260, like probably 260, 261 duration at 50, and you're going to be up in the 7,500 RPM mark to shift to something like that with that kind of compression, because you're going to want to RPM it. If it's more If you don't want to turn it that hard, then be in the 255. But the thing is that you're going to be really high on the compression, and you're not going to be able to bleed that off. I would normally like to be on a 106, but because your compression, I would probably put on a 108, so that way you don't have to run like C23 in it. Because with 13.3, you're right on the cusp of a 110 not working. You're probably almost into the 112 C12 mark.
Yeah. Well, you're just away from the regular VP 110 or
just
Sunoco 260 GT.
Yeah.
No, so what I was laughing about earlier was the run right here. Ron Ward says, mostly old part says, or that time you take the kids fishing and they decide to secretly haul their 12-inch catfish into the car and leave it under the seat in July heat. Yeah, I'm done having kids. All right.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty terrible.
That's terrible. That's like on Grumpy Old Men. Remember, he does that. He takes the fish and throws it in the guy's car. Yeah.
Yep. Brooke says, y'all are making me nauseous talking about vomit. Well, I won't talk anymore about vomit, and you should get stiffer stomach because Clint's bringing up a good point. Aren't you a nurse?
Exactly. Mostly all parts are saying that factory compression on is more than 9-to-1 should have been ideal. Yeah, no, I agree. It is. But if he gets aluminum heads, he can run a 10.5-to-1 and still run pump gas because they'll dissipate the heat, and then you're just going to gain all that more pop power. It's a run. Where is it? So Dizzy's saying that he has a set of early 413 heads to make the 400 a 9.1 or to 9.5.
See, that was the problem. That was the problem with all those 400 engines that came out in the mid to late 70s. Was they were all neutered so bad for compression, and that's what they all really need.
Yeah,
is as much compression as possible.
Yeah, just add it to it. Yeah. Oh man, we caught up. Man, this is going by fast. It's already 1:42.
Yeah,
an hour and 42 minutes. Man.
Everybody's talking about like I can't do people puking or pooping or whatever, and then Colleen's saying I've been dealing with animals for 35 years, cast iron stomach required. The thing that I don't know if I've ever told anybody this, but the thing that gets me, like I can do whatever, poop, puke, whatever. The second you stick a needle in my arm, I will literally faint.
Yeah.
Right. I cannot watch surgery shows. I cannot see anybody filleted open. Now, if I hurt myself and like I broke my finger one time, it was a compound fracture where it came out through the skin, right? And I could look at that all day long. It didn't seem to bother me. But my buddy's wife, who was a nurse, took one look at it and just fell over, right? Now, if it's somebody else, I would do the same. I would fall out. But I can't do shots. I can't watch a needle go in my arm. I will freaking pass out.
Venture Drive says he got some Edelbrock E Street heads for his next 400. The current heads are 440 cell stealth heads that are CNC ported, but only came to 8.57 to 1 compression. Yeah. Indecisive Garage. I was thinking about 630 lift. I don't talk about lift until I know the cylinder head flow because the lift is basically just a secondary product of whatever duration at 50, lobe separation angle, intake center line is really going to set up how the engine runs. The only time I look at lift is if I have some head flow numbers, and that way, if you can just basically lift it just to where the CFM stops, and it just doesn't gain anymore because there's no point in lifting it past there. Just get it to that number as fast as possible. I'm assuming that you mean 300 is advertised. I think that's what you mean. I normally don't talk about advertised much because it's going to be a solid roller. So your advertised is going to be wherever you set the lash, but duration at 50 is when you can actually start to measure airflow, not necessarily blow down. So it would be 260. So as far as advertised, couldn't really tell you. It would be depending on what master, and then lift. If you send me at spolito@edelbrock.com, if you send me your cylinder head flow and all that kind of stuff, I can put you together a camshaft that would work really well, and then we'll just figure out the advertised after that.
See, and to be realistic here, this is you're going to indecisive garage. You're going to get into what Shane and I have talked about before, where the heads that you got are actually really good cylinder heads.
You don't need a
You
cam.
don't have to have Gonzo camshaft.
Nope. Yeah,
you could actually dial it back and probably make more horsepower because you don't have so much spring pressure to overcome.
That's right. And you don't beat it to death. In fact, there's more cam that I could put in the Cookie Monster, but because my head flows so well, I don't put as much camshaft as I really need into it. It needs a much bigger cam for the RPM I turn it, but because it has such a good head flow, it's fine way up there. And I'm not beating on the valve train nearly as much. I'm not having to change springs every year or check them every year.
Yeah, and I also found a few years ago that doing it all with rocker arm is almost more beneficial than doing it with the camshaft.
Absolutely, because you're moving less parts. There's less inertia, that moment of inertia to change direction. And then you gain it back on the other way because you're getting a mechanical advantage going the other way. Always put as much ratio as you can into it. In fact, pro stock guys are in the 2.1, 2.5.
Yeah, because I was trying to get to 1.9. I mean, that's a easily attainable number for a regular racer to have a 1.9 ratio rocker. They were making those for Cleveland's way back when. But small block Chevrolet should probably be like the easiest thing to get like a 1.9 ratio on. Just call what are those rocker arms?
Well, it depends on his head now, on his arm length, because if he's got a stock GM arm length, I think 1.7 is or 1.75.
Well, that's because the trunnion gets to be so big in them that you start hitting the spring, right?
Yeah, the push rod. Well, the push rod gets so close to the trunnion because the arm length is only so big, and at that, he's going to need to run a shaft mount system. He's not going to be able to run like a stud girdle.
I was trying to think of who's those rocker arm guys in like Nevada?
T&D, but then there's also
Jessel. If you're going to do the shaft mount, Jessel is the ticket.
Yeah, well, I would. If you're looking for longevity and it's not ultimate RPM, look for something that's got a steel rocker, because aluminum is going to heat cycle so much and it gets soft. It just will not last nearly as long.
That's
get something that's rebuildable too.
I got those crazy. You remember the crazy comp? I don't know, Pro Magnum.
Yeah,
that's what I got.
Yeah, but those are good because they were oversized aluminum. They were massively huge. Those Magnum ones.
Well, maybe they're not Pro Magnum. They're the ones with the weird webbing on the outside. They're a steel rocker.
Oh, it's a steel rocker. Okay,
but
yeah.
Got the holes in it and like this webbing all over it.
Yeah, well, that was for lightweight, so that way it cuts down on the amount of weight, so you didn't have to change the.
Well, that's what they kept telling me is I needed a steel rocker because you need to put as much ratio in it as possible, and those things come factory with 1.73s. So I got, like I said, a 1.83, I think, and they're like, you got to run a steel rocker on this. It's the only way they're going to last for any period of time.
Yeah, and then that way too, you have less weight on the lifter changing that direction because you're moving it less because it's on the rocker. Push rod as well, and then also too the spring and the retainer that you're moving, also get those as light as possible, and you'll take away all your valve train problems just by doing that. Make it all light, and with the same spring pressure, you're going to gain RPM because you're not having to cycle it nearly fast. I think it's every gram, I think is what it was, is 100 RPM, wasn't that? Is that what it was? I'm trying to remember 6 years ago.
Well, when we did my rockers for my Buick.
Yeah, because I did all the math for you on yours.
We took 30 grams out of it on the back side of the rocker.
Oh, yeah. So that was like an extra 300 or 400 RPM with the exact same setup with those masters.
5, but I could be wrong.
Maybe it was 5. But yeah, I think just a rule
I say it in the video, but it's just that video is 5-6 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, I did all the math on it. I weighed everything. I weighed the spring, weighed the valves, weighed everything, and then I just did the math with how fast the valve was opening with that rocker arm ratio. The effective our rocker arm ratio added in some numbers for deflection because you're going to lose a lot of that. And then RPM, your duration of 50 is going to get smaller as RPM goes up. Oh yeah, right here. He's got the hot. I got a stock HO cam with GT40P heads and 1.7 rockers, Alex's springs, valve screen. That was like the hot setup back in the day. That was like literally everything.
Yeah, that was if he's in California, that's the factory setup to go with. If you're not in California, pull that factory HO cam out and throw it in the trash and put an E cam in it, and it'll really come to life.
Vinci Adventure Drive says lightweight parts comparison: titanium retainers versus beehive springs with matching retainers. The beehives are always going to be better if you can get them in the weights that you need because it's a progressive spring. And the weight is so much less on the conical because remember, even the springs as they stack is going to send a pulse through your camshaft and it's going to make it vibrate. Well, with the beehives, they don't have that stacking problem because it's a beehive. It's like a conical looking thing. And you having a steel retainers because it's so much smaller, and then you can run a much smaller actual
That's where we lost. That's where we lost all the weight on my rock arm system. Was the retainer lost like 12 grams just by itself.
Yep, exactly. And so if you can do all that stuff, but I would go with the beehive spring if you can, with your setup and your RPM level, and that way you don't have a problem with that. But typically, in most race applications, you're going to need a dual spring to get the spring pressures of, say, on a solid roller like 550 and above or 650, and that 200 to 190 on the seat. It's going to be hard with a conical spring to do that.
Hey, so this next question's for you. Just imagine having lightweight valve train with an E85 carb.
That's going to be the new switch pitch right there. It's going to be those guys in the E85. Right? We all scream. It's the Pee Wee Playhouse scream. Oh, whenever we hear the buzzword.
It's so funny.
Oh, that's good. Let's see here. There was one. Thomas back in the 60s made an American engine high rocker arm ratios. Great time experimenting with 165 on cars that only had 1.5s. Yeah. In fact, a lot of my circle track guys will change rocker arm ratios on intake and exhaust to help with torque curves. They just move the torque curve around coming out of the corners. It really makes a big difference.
I don't really know if you remember where I started on that valve train whole escapade. I had all the Buicks. If you look in the books, the rockers are 1.5 ratio rockers, right? Well, I read somewhere where the 1971 to 73, which were cast aluminum ones, are the lightest weight, but they're only 1.52 ratio. And I started thinking, well, dang, nobody's ever measured any of the ratios because I've always seen just 1.5s. So I got every rocker arm they ever made, and I weighed every single one, and then I checked the ratio of every single one, right? And the original 67 to 69 big block was 1.62, and that was never discussed anywhere, right? And I thought, that's the thing, that's the ticket. Those are the ones to have. And then when I weighed them all, that was the lightest rocker. So it was just weird because it was an oil through the head deal on those rockers. So then I had to convert everything to oil through the head, or I needed to lubricate through the push rod and make it oil backwards. And that's what I ended up doing.
Now changing rocker arm ratios is a good idea, but it's not always the best idea because if the cam specs were designed for a certain rocker arm ratio, by changing that, you can change the all the different derivatives of how that cam works. Your acceleration, your velocity, and then also to jerk. That's basically coming off the seat, how fast it changes direction. You can actually over ratio camshafts if they're not designed for that. And then you'll never be able to keep those harmonics out of the valve train. And you'll actually see it in the dyno curve. You'll see these dips that are just, you're there and you can't tune them out.
Unexplainable.
Yeah, unexplainable.
You hear the engine lug at a certain RPM, and then it'll pick back up out of that like 400 RPM later, and you're like, what is going on there? And you think it's carburetor or distributor the whole time.
Yeah, and it's not. It's literally something that you just, by changing the rocker arm ratios. But
I think I told you this. When I went to pick up my T-Bird, the guy that built the engine for my T-Bird, I went on deployment, right? I was like, I had all the parts. I got them together, and I was going to put it together, but I ended up getting a deployment back-to-back. So in 2011 and 12, I went on a 9-month deployment, came home for 2 weeks, and went on another 9-month deployment, right? So I took the engine up, or all the parts, up to this guy named Tim Zepp, and he used to build all of the engine masters when it was a competition. He did all the cleaver combinations.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took my engine. I'm like, hey, okay, this is what I want. This is what I want for the specs. Like, the how much on the rods. And anyway, he was like, you bring it to me for a reason. And then I told him, I was talking to him one day about resonant frequencies, right?
Yes.
And how you
Big
can
deal.
calculate the resonant frequency based on the wavelength and the
Mhm.
length of whatever you're trying to
Yeah.
is your receive either your antenna or if it was mechanically linked to something, if it's that specific length, it will resonate.
Yeah.
And he was like, wow, do you think, and he pulled out this push rod. He said, do you think this is what happened to here? And you look at this push rod and it was all blue in the middle, the whole thing.
It's exactly
And I said, yeah, you resonated that.
Yeah.
And he's
especially
like,
in the middle.
how do you fix that? And I said, all right, change the diameter of the push rod and go larger diameter and taper it.
Yes.
Right. And it'll get rid of the whole thing. I said, it'll still resonate in the center, but it won't heat the whole entire push rod like that.
Yeah. Also, too, with it being center, you're going to change the frequency where it resonates too. At what frequency?
It will.
It's bigger in diameter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, too, you move it away from that. So you actually in two spots. So instead of superheating one section area, it could be farther up.
Well,
I've actually seen it with the push rods heated in 3 areas because the RPM was so high. The signal.
That's what I was going to say is the one he told me that happened at 9,800 RPM. And if you actually did the math, it's literally the second harmonic.
Yeah.
Right. And it was just hammering him at 9,800. And he said the engine will fall off. You can't make any more power, and the valves are not floating. I've changed springs, and it does it every time. And I'm like, it's resonant frequency. That stuff's brutal.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's really brutal.
Yeah, we would see it on our sonar screens. Would light up the whole entire screen. You couldn't see anything, and it's because what was happening was your receive frequency. You're looking at a resonant of your receive frequency.
Yeah. So here's the last one here, and then after this, we got a little chat with you guys. SSR, if you can beat my Laguna with the Nova, with nitrous and E85, I'll give Dallas and Shane money to change the rules.
Do it. I want to see that happen.
Yeah, I just want to see the race, but I'll do one last thing here. Don't forget to go check out WAF Racing. He's the one that makes this happen, and so on and so forth. What we need to talk to you about, since we got some decent people in here right now, is that as you know, Dallas is starting school here soon, and with him starting school, school is the most important thing for him right now, which I agree. We're not sure how this is all going to work out. Where he starts in a few weeks, and then after that, we're going to just play it by ear and see what happens from that point on. But I want him to go back to school. I'm really stoked for that. But like I said, how this turns out, we're just going to play it by ear and see what happens. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Well, that means we don't know what's going to happen with the show. Am I going to have time to do the show?
Yes.
If I don't, see, it's never the same if I'm not here.
That's right.
And you guys have seen that.
Yeah.
And,
so it's just not saying anything bad right now. We're just going to see how things play out, and we're going to go from there. But yeah. And then I've got another video dropping every Saturday, and I'm still doing that the video, the short every day. And today I just put up a short that shows the transmission mocked in position with an engine in the in the compartment, and I got exactly 3 degrees again on the cylinder head. So you
got 3 degrees of down angle toward the tail shaft.
Exactly, and that's where it was exactly when I took it up. Yeah, that's factory, exactly.
Yeah.
So
any of them are between 2 and 4.
Yeah. So I put it before I did is I marked the spots where it was at. I put it up. I measured everything. Then I took all the parts out. I made all the fabricating before I even moved it, and I got it exactly at 3. Then I took it back out, hosed it down, put it in the exact same spot, changed the cylinder, built an engine, changed the cylinder head, changed all that stuff, put everything back together, mounted it back up just today, and it was exactly at 3.0. So you can't do any better than that. With that, don't forget that on Tuesdays is still Buff, right? Buff and Kim, they still do that Tuesday nights?
I don't know. I haven't watched them in a while.
But
I don't watch a lot of YouTube, honestly.
Yeah. And then obviously they're always on. And then like Colleen was saying here, was it Colleen? Yeah, or someone right here. And see you guys tomorrow night. I'm sorry, Gen X Live. And then Friday on John Wilburn, he basically did it for us. So yeah, I've been watching the Gen X. I let it play in the background on Thursday nights. It's actually pretty cool. If you grew up as a Gen X, a lot of stuff that they talk about really reminds you of your childhood, and you're like, oh shit, I remember that. So
All right, well, we're out.
yeah. So with that, guys, you guys take it easy. We'll see you guys next week. You guys have a great week.
Thanks so much, guys, and I appreciate all the votes of confidence about going to school
Yeah.
as a